Hello and welcome to our student Q&A panel session. Thanks very much for joining us. We're joined by some past and current students today to share their experience of studying a Masters within the School of Psychology and Neuroscience. So please use the Q&A box to ask any questions that you've got. We've also got some questions that have been submitted beforehand that we'll run through too. So we'll start off by just introducing our panel. So Claire, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so I'm Claire, I'm from Glasgow, and I studied the research methods of psychological science last year, so I think I graduated last year, but yeah.
Perfect. Palmer?
My name is Palmer. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I studied research methods in psychological sciences, similar to Claire. We graduated in the same year too as well.
And Vanshika?
Yes, I'm Vanshika. I'm from India, so I'm doing my MSc Psychological Sciences right now. It's a conversion program, and I've done my bachelor's as well in psychology.
Fab. I suppose that's quite a nice place to start then, Vanshika, because you're doing the conversion program, but you studied psychology in undergrad. So how does that work? What made you decide to do the Masters as well?
I'm definitely interested in going into the field, and I know that my original program, my bachelor's, was not an accredited program in the UK. So I required something that is accredited, and that's why I opted for this course.
Fab. So I assume there'll be many people like that trying to sort of convert their degree over. So that's really good to know. One of our first questions we've got is, why did you choose to study the Masters that you studied? So we'll maybe stick with the wee circle that we had there. That's maybe an easier way to do it. So Claire.
Yep. Well, I did my undergrad quite a few years ago, so I had quite a gap in between. And my undergrad was in psychology at the time, so I was trying to think about what direction I wanted to go in. And at the time, research methods suited me the most because it meant that I could kind of branch out into any field from that. It was also something that when I was doing my undergrad, I struggled with. So I actually thought, why not throw myself in the deep end and just kind of get used to doing that, because most research and most kind of psychology research backgrounds are primarily about stats. And knowing, like, getting that confidence within the data. So that's exactly why I did it. Most people kind of shy away from it, whereas I was like, no, I'm just going to throw myself in, like, and just experience what I experience and go for it. But yeah, that was really why.
And how did that go for you?
It went okay. I mean, at first, I think, like, when you're, obviously I'd been out a few years, so I wasn't like afraid to ask questions, which I think helped. I was very much like, oh, if I've got a question, I'll just ask the question. I'm not going to like shy away, because at the end of the day, that doesn't help me and it doesn't help them. So yeah, it was okay. And then obviously I got quite a lot of experience from it, and now I'm much more confident in what I wasn't confident in before. So I think it helped.
Your risk paid off then.
Yes, it did.
Palmer, what about you? Why did you choose to study the research methods program?
So I came from my undergrad directly into my postgrad, but I chose this one specifically because after I read the course curriculum as well as the courses that I would be providing, I thought it was the best step for me personally to get to the next stage of my career, which I was hopeful for a PhD program/course. Additionally, I chose this course as it provided more freedom on your thesis compared to other courses. Specifically, I could choose my supervisor and thesis proposal ahead of my application, provided you apply early, of course. This characteristic wasn't found in some of my other classmates' courses, where they wouldn't know what they're doing with their thesis on or with until around February, March time for brain sciences, if I'm remembering that correctly, which for me, as someone who needs to have a project that I really like in order for me to really get into, I can't just drone on about a project I don't care about. It was very essential for me.
Fab. And Vanishka?
Sort of similar reasons, I would say. I definitely wanted to, as I said, because my original program was not accredited over here, I wanted a program that is accredited. However, I was not interested in a very research-heavy program. As Claire said, I was one of those people who shied away from such a program. And I think this program has given a good balance of a lot of theoretical knowledge and the research aspect of it, with being able to understand how things are a bit different over here.
And how did you find moving from a sort of undergrad, or if you've taken a bit of a break, how did you find coming into postgraduate study? Because it's very different from undergraduate study, but also teaching in the UK is very different to teaching elsewhere. So yeah, I'll open this one up. How did you find it?
I mean, for me personally, I found it at first. I found it quite daunting because I think I'd been out at the time. I'd been out for about 5 years, and I had lived abroad and stuff. So when I came back, it was like a combination of things at once. But for me, like once about a month into it, you just get used to being back at university again. I think it was more so the juggling everything and realizing, okay, I'm not working as much. I have to prioritize my time a bit more. But once you get the hang of that, I actually quite enjoyed it. I also quite enjoyed the fact it was obviously smaller. A master's isn't as big as an undergrad class. So I think getting to know people was a bit easier. And yeah, that was my experience anyway.
I mean, for me personally, I came directly from undergrad, so I experienced a little bit of academic fatigue when I made the immediate jump from undergrad to master's. In fact, for this specific application, you have to write your research proposal ahead of time, reach out and contact the supervisor. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword where you have to put the work in ahead of time for a project that you really want to do, and you're excited to do ahead of time because you put the work in previously for the application specifically. Now, that worked for me. That might not work for others around them. I did my undergrad up in Aberdeen, so it wasn't too big of a shocker for me to go from one Scottish university to another.
For me, I would say it was definitely quite different. I did my undergraduate from Canada, and the classes are a lot bigger over there. They are way more frequent. And over here, there is a lot of workload, but it's different. It's a lot of independent study that you have to do, a lot of reading, a lot more critical thinking skills you have to use, a lot more focus on research that's there. And the research focus I found to be spread throughout the entire program rather than being specifically down to a single course. There's a little bit of something that will keep you engaged in that skill throughout the program.
Great. I always find it really interesting, and I don't know if your experience was the same, but I always think for undergraduates, it's the student-teacher relationship almost, but for postgraduate, it does seem more like the master students become part of the department almost. Did you feel like that, or did you still feel like there was a bit of a, oh, you're the teacher and the student?
No, not at all. Everybody got on so well, and yeah, you could speak to like your teachers the same way you could speak to anyone on your course. We had such, I know Palmer was in the same course as me. We had such a good relationship with Phil and Helena. It was just so easy to talk to, and if you had any issues, you just did not feel uncomfortable whatsoever voicing them. It was definitely a much different vibe that I got from undergraduate.
Yeah, I mean, Claire's exactly right. I mean, I got along with Phil and Helena, our course coordinators, so well. It was very fun just chatting with them in terms of problems that I might have had with the course. There'd be a little bit of banter that I might have with Phil or Helena, and they were always very nice, very funny. I never really felt like there was an air of you're a student, you should be listening to me. Very much felt like it was getting closer to a peer relationship rather than it being a student to teacher relationship, which for me, it works out wonderfully because I'm a very informal person.
I would say because my program looks a bit different overall, the conversion program is a bit different. So it has been a good balance of both of the things. There is a certain amount of student to student teacher relationship that's present, But at the same time, they're definitely very, very friendly. They're open to talk to. You can chat with them at any point. They're so nice during office hours. And it's definitely not restricted to just your studies, to the academics. You can talk to them really about anything. And they're very happy to have a discussion.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and I feel like throughout your life you're always told that if you've got a question, ask that question, because more often than not somebody else thinks the same question, don't they? So ask it, don't be embarrassed, because I mean there's worse questions to ask a lot of the time. Um, the in terms of the projects are such a big part of a master's program. So how did could you tell, in fact, Claire Palmer, do you remember much about your project? I was going to say, could you tell us a little bit about it, and how you found it, maybe what your topic was?
Yeah, so the reason, yeah, my project, I've actually went into a job within the project that I did, which, yeah, has been crazy. Like, it's actually altered the direction that I've went in. So, like Palmer said at the beginning, we kind of put ourselves forward for if we wanted to do specific projects, or there was even areas of like interest. So I wanted to do neurodivergent research, and there was specific people and supervisors that I could reach out to. So straight from the get-go, I had like an area that I wanted to look into, but not necessarily a project itself. So once I found my supervisor, David, who's really, really nice, great, and he also had lived experience himself, it was great to kind of get to know the projects that he was passionate about. So we kind of ended up looking at students as a whole and how the university helps neurodivergent students through Freshers Week and through their student experience. So my kind of project was leaning towards helping students in that sense, and like getting a gauge for what students need in the future. So I really enjoyed it, and then I went into that research itself after I left. So I really enjoyed what I did. I thought everything like flowed really well. Obviously, I had a really great relationship with my supervisor, and it ended up really well. But it went from being such a daunting experience to begin with and being like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, to something that's, yeah, just been amazing in hindsight.
Oh wow, that's such a nice story, and because you've not forgot what your research is then, because you're still doing it.
From my thesis, I did mine on Alzheimer's research, specifically working with AD&I, Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative. I did not work with the actual scans itself, but I worked with a data set that was collected over 20 years. And I conducted a lot of statistical analyses, such as Bayesian statistics, Bayesian modeling, as well as a multinomial regression model. That is a lot of very big words, I'm aware, and it took me a long time to figure out how I actually should be doing this. A lot of the stuff that I got was from specific classes that the course actually offered, and my concepts developed as the courses were complete. So at the start of my degree, I was kind of foaming at the mouth, ready to start on my thesis because I was excited, I really liked it, and I was just ready to get my hands on it. But my supervisor was like, take your classes, please. So it was the right move in general, and because I think the paper got a lot better as a result of that, because the skills that I've developed from the course were directly inspiring the work that I produced with my thesis, which I'm in the middle of trying to publish it. I'm almost done with it now, but I'm happy that it's almost done at the very least.
Oh, it's really interesting, because it's just two projects there, but so like totally different from each other, but you have been studying the same masters, which is wild. I think it just goes to show that if you've got an interest, you can definitely target and really look into that interest.
I mean, that's the appeal with our degree, I would say, is just how general it can be at the start to figure out what you really like. Just in terms of the branches that the two of us went to, and some of our course mates in wildly different directions too as well. So you don't have to feel too committed, I think, at the start of, oh, I have to go into Alzheimer's disease research because I chose that at the start. Like, there's a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, I also think with like you're saying, the qualitative and quantitative aspects, like you could really branch out and do anything you really wanted to do. I obviously leaned more towards qualitative data, but I did include quantitative data because I did want to show what I had learned that year, to gain that confidence. But it just shows you, even if you're feeling that little bit like underconfident, you can still do the research, but then focus more on qualitative measures if that's what you really want to do. But yeah, that's what I really enjoyed about the course as well.
Yeah, for me, I would say the research has looked a bit different because in the conversion programs, you only get into the process sometime towards the end of the first semester when you get to give your options for some supervisors that you would like to work with. All of them are coming from such different fields. And it may seem scary, but it is absolutely not because they are all so happy to explore different fields, learn about different fields, and it gives you a wonderful opportunity to combine different fields as well. So, for example, I am at present working about on the sleep quality in postgraduate students, and I'm looking at their smartphone use, their loneliness, and their stress. So I've really gotten to combine the clinical and social aspects of both of them.
Oh, that's different again. Yeah, that's really interesting. And what is the sleep like? The sleep quality like for postgraduate students? Is it good? Is it bad?
So far, it's been bad.
Oh God, I'm not surprised because I think that's the thing about a master's. It's 12 months and you don't really get eased into them, do you? It's pretty much you kind of join and it's right, let's get to work. And I think that surprises some people. So in terms of that workload, how did you manage it? I mean, for some people it's more of a struggle than others, or it takes a bit of time to get into the swing of things. But yeah, how did you find managing your workload?
It was a bit daunting at first. I think overall it was okay. I think once I got into a rhythm with it, it was easy. I think that just juggling things is hard enough. I think, see, when you've got work and other kind of responsibilities, but like I said, me coming in from like having a few years off, I think I was more determined. Obviously, Palmer said he was more fatigued at that point, so my experience was maybe a bit different. But I was like much more motivated, and I remember in my undergrad I used to always leave things to last minute, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to really try. And then I think about a month in, that kind of went out the window, and I was doing things like 2 weeks before, and I just realised that that's just the way that it works for me. I've always been a kind of last minute under pressure person because I feel, but that's just me. I know someone that had everything done 2 weeks before the due date as well, and that's just what worked from there for them. But and I always felt like even if I was struggling, I could have went to somebody for help, or voiced that kind of struggle. There was also obviously always talk of like extensions for like a week. If you wanted an extension, there was never any like no questions asked. A lot of people think that they're going to have to like draw blood and just to get an extension, but we never felt like that. It was always like, if you need that extra week, you can always ask. So I thought it was okay, and I managed okay, but there towards the end of the year, I think, is when it gets a bit heavy, when you've got your thesis and you've still got those reports. So in hindsight, looking back, I think what I could have done better at that time was do the reports a bit earlier and just focus on the thesis at that point instead of leaving everything. But it all worked out in the end, I guess.
So I can either confirm or deny if I did any of my assignments last second. That is something I'm taking to the grave. But how I managed my coursework was, for one, getting out of the city, going to a third space. Mine personally was going up to the Highlands, assuming the weather allowed, and just disconnecting entirely, just so I had the time to just be like, I'm not checking my Outlook. I'm not checking anything else. I'm not going on Instagram. I'm just in the mountains. Leave me alone. And it worked for me because Glasgow is a very good spot geographically for you to just go take a train, go take a bus, go up, see some nature, come back down the same day. You'll be fine. There's plenty of clubs you could join. I joined the Powerlifting Society. It was great, very welcoming for new people, especially postgraduates. But yeah, it's genuine. Third space is probably the best thing you can probably do for your master's degree.
Yeah, definitely agree with both of you here because my experience was kind of similar. I would definitely recommend having a third space. However, for us, the way it worked for most of my cohort was we decided to explore different buildings on campus, and we opted to go to the buildings where we have not had classes just yet, so that way it has given us a good chance to really see, okay, what are all the different buildings and classrooms like, and at the same time given us a different space to study. We have also had a lot of study groups and study clubs going on throughout the entire program, and it has definitely been great. We have all found it to be really helpful because everyone's sort of in the same situation. You all need to work and set a timer and everyone just works together. Everyone's getting a good break together. So it's also really de-stressing when you have so many people to talk to and just sort of maybe even if you need get a little bit of a rant about whatever is bugging you. And everyone comes together, everyone will bring a bunch of snacks and everything as well. So definitely would recommend something similar.
Oh, that's a really nice top tips. I love that about going round to different buildings because a lot of your classes will probably be in similar buildings and there's so many nice places on campus. Um, yeah, so that's a really good idea. Have you found any really good sneaky spots that are really good?
So actually, we do have access to some of the rooms in JMS.
Mhm.
You would think that you don't have access to them, but actually, honestly, we've really been just trying to use our student IDs everywhere, and wherever we've managed to find access, it's a place to go and sit and study. So definitely would recommend those and a really good spot to study during exams for sure.
Nice. Yeah, because campus can get busy, so it's always good knowing those little sneaky spots. And we've just told everybody, so we should probably have not said that. um, Palmer, you touched on it there. It's really important, isn't it, to really make the most of your time doing your masters. And it's not just all about the studying, as much as that's really important, but there's so many clubs, societies, and even where Glasgow is in Scotland, it's really handy for like seeing other parts of Scotland or further afield. So, how did you manage to balance this the fun with the serious work side of things, or did you maybe not get the balance quite right?
I got the balance perfect. There's no reason that I messed that one up. I managed it well because I've previously been a part of clubs, so I've already kind of had that training to studying point, as well as trying to integrate like a social option towards studying too as well is maybe seeing course mates. Once a week, the department will have a guest speaker either once a week, once every other week. It's really fun to go. Most supervisors slash professors, doctors that work at the university, staff members, they'll go and they'll ask questions to this random man, woman um, that is, presenting something to you. I have no idea what's going on. I just want to learn and I want to chat. And I made it a point to myself that I would ask a question. Sometimes it'd be a really dumb question, but I would ask the question. So I think the department does a good job in terms of integrating a little bit of socializing to studying, which kind of plays into the whole you don't really feel like a peer, or sorry, you feel more like a peer and less like a student.
Yeah, I think I agree with the guest speakers were really good. I actually enjoyed it because you learn so much, and it's people that have been doing projects that they're passionate about. There was also cheese and wine at all of them, so it was good that it definitely brought out that peer relationship for sure. I know quite a few people that were going for the cheese and wine, but they were learning something at the same time. So, yeah, it was good. But in terms of like work to life balance, absolutely. Like Palmer said, like living in Scotland is such a beautiful country. And even just a walk around campus, like University of Glasgow is such a beautiful campus. And just sitting in the main campus area, and you see all the tourists coming in and taking pictures. And it's just, I used to just have lunch on the bench just for like an hour just to decompress, or a few of us would like walk around, and it's right in the middle of the West End, so you could go to have a wee coffee and just go back. So it definitely helped having that kind of balance there whenever you needed it, really.
Yeah, definitely would agree with that. And even if you feel like the meetings are going to be something about a topic that you don't really know anything about, I would still recommend going for those just because there's still so much you get to learn out of it. I know some of my peers who ended up choosing their dissertation topics that were inspirations from things they've learned in these meetings.
Fab. I think our last question, I can't believe that's time up. I could speak to you all day. I think for our last question, what are the plans for the future? This is maybe one that we'll start with Vanshika first, just because she's our current student, if that's all right. So what are your plans for the future for after graduation?
Scary question for sure, because it's almost towards the end. At present, I'm definitely looking at assistant psychologist roles, and I have been applying so far. I've started applying only recently about on for those. And for my conversion course, I decided to specialize in clinical, so that's definitely something what I'm looking towards.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, so obviously the future is now for me. I mean, it's still the future too. But I went into neurodivergent research after my project, so I started applying within research. I wanted research positions, and I was actively looking for PhDs within that at the same time. And I ended up finding a research post at Queen Margaret University. So I work in Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh, doing with the National Autism Implementation Team. So we kind of work all over Scotland and make like healthcare, education, etc. more neuroaffirming, and doing that research to kind of push it out there. And I love it. So I've been really enjoying it. I'm also like looking to publish my thesis as a book chapter. With my past supervisor at the same time, so a lot of exciting things at once. I'd still do plan on doing a PhD eventually, but I have been looking, but it's just trying to find that right one. I don't want to sign up for one just for the sake of signing up. And I think because I'm in such a, like, I was really lucky to find the post that I found so quickly after university. I know a lot of people that don't get that kind of similar experience, but for me, it's really helped kind of make that passion even more, and it's definitely something that I want to continue to do for the like considerable future, at least right now.
So I work for Harriet Watt as a research assistant right now, specifically in meta science. But I was applying for PhD applications on the side the whole time when I was doing it. It took me a little while to get in somewhere, admittedly. But that's the nature of applying for these sorts of things. It just gets more and more difficult as time goes on. People really like this stuff. So I got into a PhD program a couple months back, and I'm going to be starting in about a month and a half's time. I'll be moving to Maastricht, where I'll be doing my PhD in health economics, basically working off of what I did for my master's thesis, working in pseudo-epidemiology, and working with dementia patients' data points in terms of cost effectiveness.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I think it's
I have no idea what's going on anymore.
I have no idea what you just said either. But I do love that your project can really help push, like take you somewhere in the future. Like almost like you said, you might start off not really knowing what you want to do, but use the courses, use your project to really help narrow it down, and you don't have to make your final decision there either, but it's just a really good sort of stepping stone, isn't it? But oh, I can't wait to hear from you all again in like 5 years' time. You'll have changed the world.
Yeah, I might be bald by the time I do my thesis.
We might all be bald.
I hope nobody's bald. I'd like to point that out.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. I've loved chatting to you. Hopefully everybody watching back has found that useful. And if you do have any further questions, please do get in touch with us. There's loads of email addresses on our programme web pages. So yeah, don't be a stranger. And yeah, hopefully we'll see many of you join us in September this year. So thanks again. Bye-bye.